Okay, I think we're on part 4 now. And what we're going to be doing is focusing on kind of tracing all of the different elements that we're going to be using on the map. So we'll be going through a couple of different tools and whatnot. One thing that we're going to need to learn how to do really quickly is to zoom in and out of your map. On a Macintosh, it's Command spacebar or spacebar command. Oh, I'm in the wrong application. There we go. Command spacebar. And there you get the little plus symbol, and you can click to zoom in, or you can click and drag to zoom in and out. If you add a shift key to that, so Command spacebar shift, or option, sorry, not shift, option, then you get the option to zoom out. But basically, you're going to want to be able to zoom in and out. If you just hold the space bar, that allows you to grab your sort of view and move it around to your liking. So being able to zoom in and out is going to be absolutely crucial to getting through this. So drawing or tracing, or whatever you want to call it, the items on your map it's a pretty straightforward process, except for one factor. Basically, we want to draw from the background to the foreground, meaning that we would start with things like lakes or parks, and then roads, and then landmarks on top of that, like buildings. The one thing that we want to hold off on until the last is putting in the actual background color. And that's because in Illustrator, anytime you draw something, you're going to be drawing it above what you just drew. And so if you started out by drawing the background, you would be obscuring your source map behind it, and that would just make things impossible. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that we're actually drawing on our template components layer. So we're going to make sure that that's selected. And like I said, we're going to start off with some sort of lakes and parks. We're not going to worry about their color or fill or stroke just yet. We're just going to try to get the shapes right. So one of the best tools for doing this is, and let's see, it moves around every once in a while, is the blob brush. I find that to be really helpful. So what I'm going to do is zoom in here a little bit, and like all brush-based tools in the world of Adobe, the size of your brush can be changed by using your bracket keys. So your left bracket key will make your brush smaller, and your right bracket key will make your brush bigger. So what we want to do is get a brush in here that's going to be just the right size for the smallest amount of detail we have in here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go in here and trace out these shapes, right? And right now it's giving us a white fill because and stroke, because that's unfortunately what I had selected. But then the neat thing about the blob brushes, you can just kind of fill in over this stuff, and when you're done, you have a nice shape, but you can see that that combines itself into one big shape, right? So it actually creates a vector-based shape. So if I wanted to go in and edit that, I could select individual points and move those around, but it shouldn't be that difficult. So in this case, what we would want to do after drawing something like this is we would go over to our graphic styles and find the appropriate style to apply to it. And in this case, it would be lakes and ponds. So if we click on that, we can see that we have our map style for lakes and ponds applied. So it's really a matter of aesthetics or personal choice to how much detail you want to include. If a lake like this serves as a meaningful landmark or pond, then by all means include it. If we want to flesh out the rest of these guys, we can go back to our blob brush, maybe zoom in a little bit, and just start and maybe shrink our brush a little bit, and just start drawing. So here we go. All right, there's one pond. All right, and that's going to look a little different. But let's just keep going, and then we'll stylize all of them at once. All right, now some of these are fields that are just regular rectangles. So I'm going to shift over to my rectangle tool and just do that, so on and so forth. And some of these look like baseball diamonds. In fact, I know they're baseball diamonds. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to abbreviate them by coming in here and selecting one corner with my direct select tool, and then pulling that one point in so that it looks sort of like a baseball diamond. All right, and maybe I'll just kind of Option Shift drag that to make a copy of it down here, and then Option Shift drag that down here and rotate it, and then do the same thing. Option Shift drag that up here and rotate it back. All right, now this isn't rocket science. It's not something that has to be super duper spot on accurate. We can do the same thing with the big park. We don't have to go into that much detail, right? Make it a little bit bigger. But once we have all of these shapes selected, we can go on in and stylize them. So I'm going to select all the ones that should be green, indicating parks, by holding my Shift key down and clicking on them. There we go. And here, I'm going to go to A1 Parks Revised. That's the graphic style for parks. And there we go. And then I'm going to take my two ponds, go back to lakes and ponds. All right. Now I've got a few more ponds over here that I'm going to go ahead and do. Now here's an interesting conundrum. Is like I could trace this out, I could blob brush it, but here's a quicker way of doing something that, because all of these roughly rectangular shapes look like they're at the same angle, I'm just going to go ahead and draw one rectangle and rotate it to where it's approximately in line with the background object, right? So then I'll move it into position and scale it up, and then I'll do an Option Shift drag to make a copy of it, and then rescale that to represent a different part of the pond, and same thing down here. All right, now again, these don't have to be 100% perfectly accurate. We're not, telling people where to find the tiny little sprinkler valve down here. We're just giving people rough ideas of where stuff is. So once we have these all drawn, we can actually go up to our it's up here somewhere, our Pathfinder, open that up, and unite those shapes. All right, so there we go. So you can see already off the bat we've managed to recreate all of our lakes and ponds and park shapes. In the next section, we're going to go over doing roads, and then we'll move on. Okay, so thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.